think Keter has a point. We really need to go deeper into this issue and probably see from the first incident that Keter walked into that particular place, what transpired, the exchanges, because we cannot say that the police were quiet or they did not say anything. But also, Honorable Keter, I'm not defending him in any way, but Honorable Keter overstepped his mandate. He used very vulgar language, and he needs to be thoroughly investigated. But I think he also needs to apologize to the authorities for actually abusing them while they were on duty.
Yeah. Well, Matangi, he maintains he will not apologize. Do you think the media was unfair in covering him of what you heard from that clip?
To begin with, the first question I asked myself when I saw those clips was the legislator aware that he's being covered?
Recorded, yeah.
You know, and it's obvious that he wasn't aware that he's being covered. So he could have said some things that we usually say in our sitting rooms, in our bedrooms, that we don't say in public. So I certainly concur that some of the utterances he made were not in good taste with good leadership. But the element of provocation, and I concur with my colleague here what he said, that if we had both sides, what were the officers saying to him when he was replying that? What provoked him to say those things? Maybe that would have helped us to come up with...
Well, we could hear the officers talk, saying, you know, Mheshimiwa, relax. Although, again, it could be argued they were playing to the gallery as they knew they were recording it.
Yeah. That's a point. Because I think in a fair scenario, then we should have had the coverage by an independent person. I wish it was an independent person, then we'd be hearing what the officers are saying and what Honorable Keter is replying. I believe...
But do you think the coverage he's gotten was unfair?
The long and short of it, in my opinion, is that eventually he'd require to come around and make an apology only as a leader, but also not to say that the officers who are manning, if it's that way bridge and any other place, needs to also streamline their conduct to make sure that they don't necessarily inconvenience if it is ordinary people, because it is obvious, and this country knows that me and you have gone sometimes to pass by police roadblocks, those kind of stations, and sometimes they unnecessarily inconvenience Kenyans. This one they must own up to and make sure that they do the right thing.
Okay. Although you've not answered my question, sir, did you think we were unfair in covering him the way we have?
In the first place, I didn't know that it was the media that covered him. My first...
No. Now how we've relayed the clip and the kind of now coverage and analysis that has come from that.
I mean, that's the work of the media. It's the work of the news of the news houses. When news come in, it's a work to broadcast it.
All right, Geoffrey.
I'll say yes and no. Yes, because I agree with him that probably we have to look at where did it emerge from. The clip emerged from social media. Whoever recorded the clip first sent it to social media, didn't send it to KTN or another TV station, so that it's a TV media house which is breaking the story to send the clip. So once it was social media, everybody ran to watch it, it became popular, and everybody wanted to get it. So in that confusion and competition, probably we could have not given him a fair, if we could say, a fair coverage in terms of getting into the depth of what happened and what prompted that argument, plus what had triggered the exchange before they recorded that particular part. Because with the 6 minutes and they argued he had stayed there long, then maybe there was something which we have not covered, we have not featured, and which has not been caught in this clip. But I will say no, because once the clip came out, once we picked it from the social media, then we went overboard and we looked for him. We got him to give us his story. It was all over. Even so, he was appearing in some of the TV stations saying, "This is my story."
Yeah. So then, didn't we not then give him the right to reply or response?
Yes. Yeah. So that's why I said yes or no, because once now it was covered in the media, then everybody got him to comment.
Became the hot interview.
Yes.
All right.
Well, I have to say I'm quite surprised.
Why?
I don't see why the media should be covering two sides of a wrong, as if suggesting that there would have been some justification for what Keter did. That if we knew what went on ahead, we might understand what he did.
Why he spoke the way he did, yeah.
The problem isn't, for me, isn't even foul language. I think that is the tip of the iceberg. This is a clear case where they're trying to use their positions, to get away without having to comply with the requirements. It is an abuse of office, and it goes all the way. If you believe Keter, it goes all the way to the State House. So there's no issue for me here that the media didn't cover what went on before. No, the legislator, by his own admission, on camera, him and Birdi are trying to influence the process to get away without complying with the law. The second thing where I think the media fails here is this vehicle, if it indeed came from Mombasa, passed through several railway bridges without a piece of paper it's supposed to have. Nobody is going and asking, how did that happen? Well, there are phone calls made there, or phones picked at these places, So that has the process been abused? And thirdly, this is presented almost as if it is new, as if our legislators, our big men don't behave like this every day. We see them on the roads with their sirens, which we've been told are illegal. They're still doing it, in passing. It is a way of behaving that our the people who possess political power, the people who are in government today operate. They think they're above the law. They think they don't have to comply. And I think that is the wider, the bigger story the media should be chasing, not just focusing on he used bad language. That is the list of the problems that have been exposed by this.
Yeah. No, Sophia, I don't know if you allow me to just comment on what my friend here said. And I'm glad first to note that I'm on the bench with the media people themselves.
Yes, we always like to have a politician.
Yeah, so that's quite encouraging. But I would want to know what you meant by saying that it goes all the way to State House, because probably that gives it the wrong connotation, because I don't think that's justified. But let me not first go there. Let me first be clear. One thing that you said, it's not correct to generalize that as a conduct of all legislators. We know, and personally I do concede that we do have some legislators, some governors, and in a way to respect to some people in power who misuse or abuse that privilege, and we've seen it. It is not right. It should be corrected, but that's not general. We have legislators who behave themselves very well, who are good people to deal with, and who respect the law. So one case or two cases should not be generalized. The point I wanted to make is that I think you heard after this incident what State House said.
They distanced themselves.
They distanced themselves very clearly, and they said absolutely that does not have the backing or doesn't have the.
And on an interview with Yvonne, the Member of Parliament Keter said, now seemed to suggest that he had that, the controller of State House had been called, so he wasn't now saying he called him.
As you just reported again this morning, Lenayapa and Kamama, as per Kamama, the head of the security committee, have been summoned. Which means there is an investigation going on. And I don't think we should gloss over this. No. Just because they've denied doesn't mean they didn't do it.
Okay, Aaron, what do you think it is about our coverage? Because there've been very many incidents in as far as this honorable members or leaders not behaving so well. The only one that we saw pull through, I think, in recent times was the Baraza that some even argue was unfair, you know, ending up losing her job. But there have been so many others. How is it our coverage just like now? We seem shocked with this story, like it doesn't happen all the time or most of the time, and then things go back to normal until the next incident.
I think it's not a surprise. A number of occasions, you walk into public offices or public places. For example, you walk into a bank and you see a mheshimiwa coming in. He would be led all the way to the counters, or he will not follow the queue. He would say, hey, excuse me. If he's not noticed, he will seek attention and say, do you know I am member of such and such a constituency, or hold such and such an office. And due to panic, or I don't know, I will call it ignorance, the person will be led to the counter or wherever he wants to be served. But it's not a surprise. It is what happens, even in, let's say, police checks.
So has the media brought out this aspect that this is actually business as usual? This is how these members and leaders are?
This is how they behave. I wouldn't say that Keter behaved in a so different manner from
but I mean, the question I think that Survey is asking is, why is this being presented as if it is different?
Yeah, like it's a one-off incident.
It's actually something that happens every day.
Yeah.
You know, and this sort of, I mean, we might call it the big man syndrome that we still have. You know, he says it's an exception. Actually, it's not. It's more the rule. You know, the CIC has just pointed out a series of events. You know, a series of incidents where legislators, governors have behaved badly and nothing happens. You know, we encounter it every day on our roads. You know, and there's this tag they have, honorable. You know, that they think then makes any conduct honorable, you know, which is ridiculous.
Jeffrey, quickly on the same before we move on.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with him.
Yes.
It happens every single day. Not just members of parliament, even ordinary Kenyans. Once you've been caught in trouble, you want to drop names. You want to call so and so. You want to tell those police, you know, I know so and so. Let me call so and so. Isn't it? That's a form of intimidation. But I'll say this. Probably this Keter thing was one of its kind because it was caught on camera. These other incidents are not been caught on camera. But compared with what happened with Honorable Sonko, a government operation, a minister for agriculture is leading a government operation to evict people who are illegally staying in the government land owned by the ministry. Then the senator calls the president, puts the president on speakerphone, and then the operation is stopped. So what has the senator done? He has literally intimidated the minister who was leading a government operation. Because there are channels within government which you can communicate as a senator. You don't have to put the president on speakerphone. So the difference between Sonko and this man is that this man was caught on camera, dropping the president's name, dropping other names when we don't even know if indeed he spoke. But Sonko had gone ahead and spoke to the president and told everybody who watched that, listen, the president is talking to me, stop this thing. So it's a habit of, say, Kenyans, where when you are in trouble, you want to drop names so that you intimidate people to get your way.
Yeah, so perhaps what was then leading to that our coverage needs to capture that. It's not even only the leaders, and even Kenyans as a society, there's that element, part of our culture, part of our system that we need to rectify as a whole, but more so, I guess, stakes higher for the leadership. Let's talk about Narok County and what we've been seeing there. Senator, have all the issues been presented by the media as you've been watching this story unfold?
Thank you, Sophia. I want you to allow me to just mention just a quick one on what he said. You know, one time I was in a lecture room and a bishop of the church was lecturing people on leadership, and he used a very interesting example. He said that once you're elected into leadership, it's like a lady in a dress deciding to climb a tree, and once you climb the tree you're up there, you want to complain that you people down there, you know, you are looking at me when I'm up there, and you may start complaining that I've not cleaned my inner clothes, but you have chosen to climb up the tree. And see, what happens is that when you have been elected into leadership, you must become an object of focus or a person to be focused on. And it is almost normal that's going to be picked out. So I just wanted to disabuse that point and support you in partly that yes, ordinary Kenyans also have the same problem. Some leaders do have problems, but it is not an exclusive problem to leaders. Now coming to Narok, I think this problem has been going on for a long time. Let me say that because I've visited Narok myself as a member of a committee that has been investigating some issues there in Narok. And these issues have been boiling slowly. They should have been dealt with a long time ago by the Narok government leadership. I think they were left too late. They have been brought to the Senate. I sit in one of the committees in the Public Accounts Committee of the Senate, and we have been looking at that matter too. The real issue here, as has been said and covered by the press, is that monies collected from the Mara Reserve are a real issue because they collect a lot of money and they have had various systems. Earlier on, it used to be collected by individuals, and then they just go and surrender the money to the county government. Then they moved into a system whereby they contracted Equity Bank to start collecting. They released, they actually, terminated that contract and brought in the new people. And I think it is that notion, that idea that that money is being siphoned off that has boiled into what we've seen. I would just want to say as a member of the Senate that I think it requires a proper investigation, and by this week, as my colleague has said, it should be brought to a close.
I think I would blame ourselves, the media, for not covering this issue of Narok comprehensively. I would agree with the senator here that probably we needed to go back to the history of Narok County, even before that, when it was a county council. Is it called, was it Narok County Council? Yeah. Narok County Council. How have they been submitting revenue from the Mara? How has it, the transformation period from the county council to the county government? And are there loopholes that probably the county is getting from, are there loopholes that probably the officials in counties are using to siphon money from the county? Then, after that is when we would have brought the issue of Senator Ntutu and what Senator Ntutu really wants. He wants accountability of this money since the county government took over. Then we would come back and then say, then he has not been given a fair chance to be given the records to see what the governor has been doing before he called for demonstrations, and why exactly did the county government, the security agents refuse to demonstrate. I think demonstration is in most cases not illegal. He was exercising his right to demonstrate following a grievance.
So you think if the media is on the ground on this particular issue,
I think we needed to have done it a little bit comprehensive. Let's go back to the genesis of all this issue. So paint the entire picture. Yes.
Contextualize.
Because what we are seeing right now is Ole Ntutu is on the wrong. He was barred from demonstrating. He went ahead and demonstrated. A life was lost. He's now being blamed for that.
Yeah, two lives. So
and what also we are seeing is where these allegations on corruption are coming about Narok County government on the issue of contracting CAPS. I believe it's CAPS to collect revenue on behalf of the county in the world famous Masai Mara. The issue here, there have also been allegations that Ole Ntutu and his team are doing this for personal reasons. If you go back to maybe 6-7 years, if I'm not wrong, there were issues of some 4,000 acres of land in the Masai Mara, which was disputed between the defunct Narok County Council and the Ntutu family. And it was entangled. I remember even the late judge, the former ESC judge, East African Court of Justice, Mojo Lekeiwo, was part of the parties in the case called Kiombo, something like that. So these issues, we also need to go, as the media probably have failed to go back and dig them and say, yes, there was an issue about land ownership right inside, deep in the Mara. Is it the one now fueling this? Yes.
So why is it that the CABS company is the one contracted to collect taxes?
There are issues on how, even when Equity went there, you remember, even when there were issues on how Equity was contracted, how the deal was signed. When CAPS came, there were issues. But I believe the Constitution and the laws have set up institutions which are supposed to take. So if we have referred this matter to the Senate and maybe ESCC and the Auditor General, then we should be able now to use those reports. Probably if the governor and officials are in the wrong, then the law should take its
So
course.
there's more that can be done in that story.
I agree with a lot that's been said, in the sense that there has been I think an all-round failure to contextualize what's been going on. But I also think one aspect that needs to be scrutinized here is the behavior of the government itself in one, banning the demonstration, and then secondly, what happened once the demonstration was underway. I mean, we've got, I think it's one person dead.
The reports indicates 2.
One or two have had,
2.
well, let's say 2. Several in hospital, apparently people who were shot, and there was this idea that cops are shooting in the air. Well, if people ended up getting shot, we've got to ask, were they really shooting in the air? What happened? We need an inquest. Why was that demonstration banned? Under what law? We've seen it's again behavior within government. People say they want to demonstrate. Even here in Nairobi in town, they end up getting tear gassed. So demonstrations are banned almost at will. And these are constitutionally guaranteed rights that are being taken away on a whim. So I think we need to be more. To scrutinize more how these decisions are arrived at, and how these demonstrations are policed. To what end? We saw in Langata when the kids were tear gassed. Police were more interested in protecting a wall, an illegal wall, than they were in protecting the protesters, or ensuring the safety of the protesters. Is this the same thing that happened at Narok?
Okay.
So I think these are some of the things we need to look at the conduct of the government itself in the
government.
Yeah, I've been asking myself, as the media covered the events in Narok, what happened? Why did the media also miss to cover, for example, the events that led to the death of 2 people and others in hospital, just nearby, where some people were attacked at Kedong Ranch? I was asking that question, and I would seriously, even now, want an answer, because I mean, Kenyans meet, they are discussing about their land, which they believe is theirs. That could be contestable. That's not the issue. But they are attacked by more than 1,000 people, surrounded, speared to death. Others, cut with machetes and butchered on the spot. And this largely goes unreported. Unreported. And we only see a few, shots of now some of the people who are in hospital 3 days later. 3 days later.
Why is that?
That was it was the border of Narok, Kajiado, and Kiambu. There's this big story about Kedong Ranch, Oderi Walari group. Which one of the groups, Oderi Walari say they bought the land, and this happened. They were attacked. They were having a meeting on the Shamba, and as they are discussing, and it is in broad daylight, the police are just next there. Then they are surrounded by people, and
not much coverage.
So I was asking that question, and I want
Let's hear from Geoffrey.
I shouldn't say we ignore such stories whenever they happen. A death is a death. Peters, 1 person with 10 people. Whenever Kenyans die in firings, it has to be reported. But then look at Narok. This is something everybody knew. There was a demonstration coming. It has been publicized. We were prepared for it. Teams were dispatched. Cameras were there. So when the demos turned violent and tragic, then everybody was there to report.
You say one life, a death is a death, but in terms of media and coverage, say in an instant where you receive a call in the newsroom, there's been an accident, 1 person has died. Will you go to cover that story? Vis-a-vis another call that comes through, there's been an accident, 20 have died. Which one is the story?
I'm looking at circumstances, of course. If it's in terms of an accident, those are things probably which are beyond, let me say, as much as sometimes...
Preemptive coverage.
Yes. But in terms of like tribal clashes or disputes over land, like what happened in Kedong, you know, probably when this meeting, the shareholders were meeting, or the members of this organization were meeting, the media had not been invited that we are going to meet over our land. And therefore, you know, it's kind of in a remote place. And probably there were no cameras there. So when it happened, once the violence was meted on those...
it took 3 days to get that story out.
I don't think
well,
it took 2 days.
I think
it was reported in the same evening. I saw the alert in the same evening. Two people have been killed this evening. So it's only that the pictures, probably the ones which Honorable Matangi saw, were after 3 days. But it was reported on the same day.
Yeah, but I mean, if I may, I think again this points to one of the huge weaknesses that the discussion we just had. People go to report the demonstration, you know. They go to report.
Not the issues.
Yeah, you know, it's not a wider exposition of what the issues are, what the problems are. You know, it's just this one event. You know, it's Qatar using bad language, not a wider exposition of the issues.
Okay.
You know, and I think that's why we have a problem. You know, when you speak about road accidents, you know, it's the same thing. We put up a black spot on a road because many accidents happen there, without finding out, well, actually, why do they happen? What can we do to fix these things so accidents don't happen? We just keep reporting that they keep happening.
They keep happening.
You know.
Final comment before I come to Aaron on a different issue.
Yes. I wanted to say, alongside precisely what you're saying, because I think you are very right. I would like to point out seriously that, especially to the media owners, one thing that the media owners must do is to invest in capacity building, in journalists and the quality of journalism. Because, you know, this is my observation, I could be wrong, but I think I'm largely right. If you look at most of the sports that personally have gone around the country, you find that most of the coverage, sometimes you can have coverage in, for example, a place like Narok, but what you have in Narok is a cameraman. But you don't have a proper trained journalist who can be able to go down deep into the issues, just like you're saying, and report, you know, real issues in context, and then merge it with what you see on camera.
Yeah.
And so unless the media owners themselves invest in quality journalism, such that stories are brought out in content and context, and then merged with what is covered on camera, then that would be
a very quick thing I might say, because we've got a legislator here as well, put it to him, that it's not just, I mean, in Kenya we've got, I mean, the large bit or the larger percentage of our media is privately owned. That's just true. But we do have a state media. And we need to be thinking about the devolved process and how we can devolve press so that the conversations that are had at local issues are not overwhelmed by the national conversation. Because right now, everybody is focused on what makes news nationally. You know, there's lots of things happening within the counties that are now reported because you don't have county-based media to arbitrate and mediate these conversations.
Okay.
So as legislators, I would think you'll be considering, because this is a national interest thing, you know, how do we encourage the growth of local of media within the counties, and then also how do we devolve huge entities like KBC and have also counties having their own media operations, you know, that can report independently of county governments what is going on in the counties.
And maybe before even, you know, thinking about that, sprucing up KBC in itself, maybe to be a good place to start.
To give better coverage and of course give more competition to KTN and the like. That's a good thing.
It's a good idea.
Good.
Teachers, Aaron, there's a number of them, two issues as far as education. There's the teachers who do not want to go back to the northeastern part of the country because of security concerns, of course, of what we saw happen late last year. We're not seeing the security organs really come out hard to address this issue, reassure these teachers that, by the way, since that incident happened, these are the measures that have been put in place to ensure that you're safe. But as the media as well, we simply just seemingly reported on, okay, the teachers are saying this, or Sion has said this, then, you know, these teachers have said this.